I want you, Ryan, to say something very insulting to Dev right now so that we can lure Dev back on next week.
I don't think there's anything more insulting I could say about Dev than what Dev said of his own free admission.
I can't believe Dev said the N-word on our stream and we didn't get in trouble for it.
And then, he did call for political violence against his opposition. So 2 truths and a lie. The chat can figure out which one of those he actually did.
Dev came on Tuesday, but he said some stuff, I think made a charge that you were lying. We wanted to invite you on to maybe clear the record or to just give your side of the story.
But he said that the reason he called for political violence against the right was because he was angry at me, which is odd because we've never met. It was very early in the debate and he didn't appear angry. So, people can come to their own conclusions about that. But yeah, he did. He called me a liar, and I guess that's why he was angry. When you asked him about it, he had 0 examples of me lying. So I don't know what I'm supposed to rebut in that regard. But I think that there's a framing that he was engaged in, maybe less artfully than some people, that I think is important to call out, which is that for the Trump's been on the scene for 10 years politically. And during that time, the left has weaponized their moral outrage about Trump and are using it to obfuscate some very bad ideas that are coming out of their side of the fence. And you can see that very clearly in the way Dev approached the conversation. His main point was the right is so bad that nothing the left does could possibly matter. And in fact, nothing the left does could even be tyrannical, because the right is so evil that anything the left would be doing would merely be fighting evil and tyranny. And that's kind of like the classic friend-enemy distinction that leads to total warfare in politics. So, I feel like this is, in some senses, I applaud him for being more honest than most on the left. But I do think that's where they've been winding up. And it's something to watch carefully because it's dangerous rhetoric. And it is apparently spilling out of the internet and into the mainstream.
So Devon, when he was talking to us, he walked back I think some of the more incendiary things he said in your guys' conversation about advocating for violence. Do you believe that he was just lying to us? Is that what you're charging here?
No, I think that it was an embarrassing thing for him to have been caught out saying. So I think that's why he walked it back. It's a little bit odd because Wick asked him that question openly. Wick said, in today's climate, do you think political violence would be justified? And he said, do you value your channel?
Yeah, but he said he was just responding to how smug you were acting. So he didn't really want to say how he felt. Yeah.
Let's say that I'm the smuggest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Right. How does that relate to whether you're going to go online and call for political violence?
Look, you
make it sad, okay? I want to do the violence.
If you
look at this smug fucking asshole. I'm gonna kill him.
Punch him, yeah. Fuck you. Come on. We've all been we've been angry conversations where someone says something or you say something back in anger, and then what you said was wrong or stupid, but you're like, fuck that. I'm not going back.
I know.
I'm tripling down.
This is
the only thing I'm
so
going to say
obvious.
is it wasn't an angry conversation. Nobody was yelling.
He said on our live stream that he was very angry. He was just doing a good job of masking it. That inside he felt
on the
rage and fury.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually think his walk back is a better articulation of what progressive tyranny looks like to me. Right? Where they're like, yeah, okay, maybe not political violence. We'd want to make sure you were convicted first. And then I think it was Wick or I asked, well, is that before or after you pack the court? He's like, oh, after. So, we're going to pack the court. We're going to change the laws. We're going to change the Constitution. And then we're going to convict you. And, then up against the wall, dear friend. And that's fine because it's legal at that point. And, I do think that's how progressive tyranny often works, is it's a series of small changes, always done with, stated best intentions. We're doing it to save you from yourselves, and we're saving X and Y, or black bodies, or, trans feelings, or what the climate, or whatever the issue is. We have a moral justification for 8 little changes, and each one we think is defensible. But if you put them all together, it becomes overtly tyrannical. And then when you get there, they're gonna deny that it ever happened. They're gonna say, "Oh, no, each of those was defensible. There was no plan. It just worked out that way." And unfortunately, that is kind of where we are. And I think it's important to point it out, because it's no less tyrannical when you have a progressive board of commissioners deciding your fate than, one strong man deciding your fate. The outcome for the person who loses their right to govern themselves is the same.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying about how progressive functions. I definitely think that's 100% true. I think, though, I wouldn't classify Dev as a progressive. I don't think he's politically progressive. I think he just hates Trump with the burning passion of 1,000 suns. And so that's sort of where he's coming from in that perspective. Like, I don't think, if Trump's gone from politics, the MAGA move is gone, I don't think he's going to suddenly be like, surprise, I'm a hyper woke progressive. We got to do all the woke stuff that I've been criticizing for the last, 80 years.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit maybe a disconnect. I think I use the term more differently than most. I'm less interested in the progressive politics of the day than most people, because those always change. Every 5 years, the progressive issue is going to be a different issue, right? What I identify as progressivism in the long arc of history, of American history, let's say, is that we were founded on a set of values in the Declaration of Independence, which are, I call the American moral proposition. The idea that all men have equal moral dignity, that we have natural God-given rights, the right to life, the right to liberty, this sort of thing. And that they don't come from the government. In fact, the government was instituted to secure these rights, not the other way around. And the government shouldn't be able to take them away from you. So anytime that the government starts treating a group of people like they have less moral worth than another, it's wrong. Slavery was wrong. Segregation was wrong. Affirmative action is wrong. DEI is wrong. These systems where the government treats one group on an identitarian basis better than another are wrong. Progressives want to get rid of those values and replace them with other values. And what those values are constantly change, because their value system is malleable and evolving. But there's a kind of a core American value system, and the progressives want to progress beyond it. And, one day it'll be trans rights, the next day it'll be climate change. The issue will always change, but that's the main arc of it. I don't think Dev's woke in the sense that you mean. I don't think he's suddenly going to be on the other side of Gamergate, but I do think Dev's progressive. I don't think in the sense that I don't think he cares about those core American values, which is maybe unsurprising as he's Canadian.
Well, that's true.
What are the core American values? What are the top 3?
Yeah, so this is the name of my channel. By the way, hang out with me, come to my channel, Ryan C. Mullally. It's Natural Law with Ryan Mullally. So if you look at the Declaration, the idea was that we have certain unalienable natural rights given to us by our Creator. And that's what our founders wrote down. And that the purpose of a government is to secure those rights. And the ones that they listed were equal moral worth. All men are created equal.
Equality, right there. Yeah. Good progressive value.
Well, they like equity. They don't like equality so much. But then, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And pursuit of happiness typically encompasses property rights. But I think those are the core ones. And these are kind of inalienable features of human dignity, is the way I describe them. They're not things the government gives you. They're things that, are entailed by your existence.
I mean, I think if you ask Dev, he would say he supports all that he believes in classical liberalism.
Well, okay, but then he supported disenfranchising the right and locking them out of political power in a tyrannical way. So, and I asked him, what are your limiting principles? And he said none. So this is what I mean. I think it's all, I think that a lot of people on the left like to label themselves as liberals because they like the optics of it. but they aren't really wedded to these values. Like when it comes time to say, no, it actually, anti-white racism in the form of DEI actually is wrong. It's morally wrong. They're not willing to go there, right? Because it hurts politically to go there. Similarly, I just feel like with this whole left tyranny arc, it reminds me of something that Destiny said on stream recently, where he said the problem with Trump that makes him worse in his mind than Austrian painters Germany is that he was elected freely and fairly. So it's worse because like you can't punish him because it would be illegal to punish him. So now we need to like come up with all these extra constitutional, extrajudicial ways to right this wrong. And the thing that's so wrong about it is that the people voted for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a retarded thing for Destiny or anyone to say.
It's not. It's post-liberal. It's a post-liberal thing to say.
Beyond even, some ideology, just to compare Trump to Hitler in any sort of fashion like that. Like, obviously, Trump, I would hope, maybe I guess I'm wrong here. I hope that even the most ardent Trump haters would acknowledge that Trump is nowhere near the level of moral depravity as Adolf Hitler was.
I would
make this comparison. So, but
I would sure hope so.
I would hope so. Yeah. But no, I think with Dev, I think he really hates Trump so much. I think he feels, from our conversation, it sounds like, I think he feels betrayed that he spent so much time criticizing wokeness and the left with a set of arguments that he now thinks applies to Trump and MAGA. And he sees that a lot of the same people that supported him now turn on him. So he feels betrayed by that. And I think that's kind of fueling some of his anger and some of his rhetoric, which I don't agree with. And I think is, not very, as I said in our conversation, I don't think it's very productive to talk about things sort of the way he's talking about it. But I think that's really what's motivating him. I don't think that he has a subversive, what I would call a subversive worldview of things. In terms of like locking people out of power and all this other stuff, which I don't agree with at all. I think it's kind of similar to like if we had a very strong communist movement that was kind of blossoming. I mean, we kind of had the beginnings of it, but far more along the lines in American politics than we actually see, communists like Hassan or someone who's advocating for more direct Leninism and more direct abolishing of capitalism and more direct, having some sort of authoritarian, dictatorship under the people's, control, finger quotes, people's control. Like I would be in favor of locking those people out of power, right? If that was going on in America. And I think the difference is he's kind of perceiving that as what's going on with Trump. And I disagree. Obviously, I think we're nowhere near any of that. But I think that's where he's coming from.
Well, this is what I meant by there's been. Let me back up. Maybe it'd be better in narrative form. When I started talking on the internet, I was a centrist. I am not a centrist. Just to be clear, I advocate for the right these days. But I know I was doing a centrist thing. And I had been on the left my whole life. So moving to the center had actually, that was a rightward shift for me, but because I'd always voted Democrat for, my entire life. And one of the things that started concerning me as I started paying more attention to politics and making the rounds in this corner of the internet is I sensed that the left was using their animus towards Trump to avoid explaining what they really wanted to do. It's a classic hiding your power level idea, right? And then, we saw the Harris election, and that was, in some senses, one of her biggest problems. Like, she said some centristy things, but nobody believed her. Everyone believed she was hiding her power level, I think for good reason. And now this does appear to be breaking containment. Like, to be clear, court packing in today's day and age, like if you go in and you break the filibuster and you pack the U.S. Supreme Court, it would be so destabilizing to the rule of law. I think you'd probably start seeing states secede, or at least try to secede at that point. Like, could you imagine a world where, the Democrats win, they appoint 4 justices, Constitution totally changes. Then the Republicans win. They appoint 15 justices. Constitution totally changes. And we get into a cycle like that. Like within 2 or 3 cycles, everybody's going to know the Constitution's not worth the paper it's printed on. It's just political football. It's the rule of the majority with no limits. It's a guardrail that nobody should be touching. And yet I'm seeing this isn't like purely like an internet thing. This isn't Pisco and Josiah and Destiny and Dev, though those are the people I have access to debate. This is, Ro Khanna and Elizabeth Warren and, major political figures who are advocating for this. So I'm nervous that the Democrats feel like they're entitled to an escalation and they're targeting something that is a norm we're not going to be able to recover from if it's broken.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I'm not in favor of court packing. I think we talked about this when you were on last time, and I do agree that a lot of, politicians are always trying to appeal to the broadest base possible. And often they don't want to kind of focus on issues that they're afraid will kind of split apart their base. The last election, especially, the left and the Democrats, they don't really know what the temperature of the country was. They didn't really know where to go in terms of how woke to be, how not woke to be. We kind of saw this with Harris, because obviously when she first ran, she was like the most hyper woke candidate ever when that was in style. And now she's trying to walk it back, but she doesn't really want to fully walk it back because then she will lose support. So the tactic was, okay, well, we're just going to focus on attacking Trump 24/7 without actually really standing for much ourselves. Because as soon as we stand for something, we start getting asked questions about policy, which could divide our own base. And that's definitely what was going on in the last election.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they combine that, which is like this, we don't want to have a policy position because that would divide the base. And then when we get in office, with Biden, he ran I actually liked the way he ran. He ran as a centrist moderate, and then he got in office and governed as a progressive. Right. So
because he wasn't governing, his staff was.
Well, that's probably true. But the point being, there's a bait and switch there, which is like the hiding your power level worry. And then there's also kind of a, I don't know. I actually feel like there's a real moral divide. Like earlier I was talking about like the American values versus progressive values. So like, have you guys seen the Trump memo, the DOJ memo that the Trump DOJ released recently about disparate impact?
No.
Have you looked at that?
I didn't look at it, no.
Oh, really interesting. Basically, the memo that they put out is they said that in their mind, the disparate impact doctrine, which is a racial litigation tool where if you see a racial disparity, you can litigate, is unconstitutional as it's been used. And specifically what they highlighted were that employers have been prevented from using things like IQ tests or aptitude tests when hiring employees. Because if they do, there's typically a racially disparate impact of those measures, and that gets them in trouble and they get sued. So they don't use things like IQ tests or aptitude tests because essentially it would advantage white people and Asian people and disadvantage Black people. Right? So so then what do we, but watch how this plays out. Since we can't use IQ tests and aptitude tests, what do we use instead? College degrees. That's the replacement. But then college degrees and college admissions was also having disparate impact. So we had to have affirmative action and we had to get rid of standardized tests, math and science programs, these sort of things, right? And we have this growing student debt crisis where everyone has to go to college to get the job because they can't just take the aptitude test to prove that they're smart and get trained by the company. So in order to, like, this balloon of different things we do in order to cushion the blow that certain aptitude tests will reveal existing racial disparities within society. And by the way, we know they're existing because when we talk about education, people like me who used to be a teacher, we are like, oh my God, there's disparities in education. People like me rush in to try to help and close those gaps. But if there's a gap in education, then obviously there'd be a gap in academic aptitude post-education, right? It's the same gap. So we know the gap exists, but we have created all these systems to avoid recognizing that the gap exists that are very expensive and very broken. But every time anyone does anything to try to fix it, whether it be get rid of affirmative action, in this case, restore aptitude testing, restore standardized testing, you get accused of being a terrible racist and a fascist. So I bring up this example because in my mind, this is the Trump administration restoring core American values, equality. Like we like, you want to have it, you want to get a good job, take the aptitude test. The high paying jobs are probably going to go to the people who have more aptitude. That's what merit is. That looks a lot more like an American value system. Whereas I think on the progressive side, they do think that's morally evil. They don't actually want meritocracy and equality. They want equity. They want race or gender, blah, 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 to be a thumb on the scale and kind of serve as some kind of pseudo balancing force. That way society will operate the way they would prefer it to operate. So I think they think that stuff is evil. And I don't think they're playing about that, but I think they're just wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. Fat Brown Buffalo for $20. Thank you so much. Says, this has nothing to do with you, but it was for $20. Says, Israel framed Michael Jackson because he spoke up for the Palestinians. Monica Lewinsky was a Mossad agent who blackmailed Clinton, and Israel probably iced JFK too. That was a quote, and they attribute that quote to Anna Kasparian, which I don't think is fair. I think that's obviously a quote from Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Anna, to be fair, Anna Kasparian is way more anti-Semitic than that.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know if you saw Tucker Carlson recently. He had a clip where he was saying that, again, it was after it came out that the guy who killed Charlie Kirk, the police or the FBI was talking to his gay trans boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't know what's going on with that situation. And they had granted them immunity in order for them to give up a bunch of information. And they basically said everything about, like obviously everything that we already know, that obviously the person that we all believe killed Charlie Kirk, and that, they did so because they didn't like Charlie Kirk's trans rhetoric, and they didn't like Charlie Kirk because they thought they were big and all this other stuff. And so obviously Tucker Carlson and Candace have to scramble now and still triple down and say, no. Don't believe any of that. It's actually really Israel that's behind
of course.
Charlie Kirk.
I also said that guy was missing. There's no way he was missing. There's no way the FBI let that guy get away, and he would surface someday. Everyone else would say, "Oh my God, he's missing. We have no idea where he is." Obviously, they were following him and getting a bunch of information, and then once they had that information, they approached him and they gave him immunity to testify to that information.
Mm-hmm.
So
honestly, I think we suck at the internet is what I'm getting from this, because I had the displeasure recently of watching a little Candace, who I don't typically watch, and a little bit of this guy Baron Coleman, who's one of her orbiters, and they both do very well, obviously, on the internet. And if you watch like 2 hours of their content, you'll be left at the end of it. You'll go like, did they actually say anything? And the answer will be no. Because maybe this is something I just need to learn to do, right? Like they'll spend 2 hours and they'll be like, let me see if I can get in character. Well, there's a narrative out there about who killed Charlie Kirk. There's a narrative. For sure, there's a narrative. We all agree there's a narrative. But listen, if you're curious, and who isn't curious? Are you curious? I'm a curious guy. I think it's a gift that I have, that I'm curious. I ask questions. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking a few questions. And it's like, do you really believe that this guy could make that shot on that day? Now, is it possible? Of course. Am I saying it didn't happen? No, I'm not. I don't have that information. Nobody has that information. But isn't there a question there? Isn't there a question about the wind? I mean, the wind kicked up. Do you know what the wind does when it kicks up like that? Neither do I. I'm just asking questions about the wind. And it's like fucking 2 hours later, and you're like, I guess there's an audience for this, but they haven't asserted any facts. And then everyone's like, holy shit, the investigation's underway. And it's just empty content, the likes of which I've never seen. I really don't know what to do about it.
Well, they're not saying it's very sad, because I know I didn't really realize this until we started streaming a lot. I realized that most of the time when you're talking to people, they kind of already have in their mind kind of a vague idea of what they think you're going to say. based on just how they know you already, or based on just like the beginning of your sentence. And then they kind of listen to the rest of what you're saying in a kind of a vague enough way to kind of connect the dots of where they think you're going. And this is how like most human conversation goes, 99% of the time. And so that's how you get these people who they'll just say like, oh, I'm just asking these questions or whatever. And that's enough because they know that the audience already has the goal mapped out of where they want the conversation to go, where they want the conspiracy of the idea to go. And so they can just do the kind of performative ignorance of, well, I'm not actually saying that, what I'm saying. I'm just going to keep asking questions and let my audience fill in the gaps.
It's really funny. It's like someone coached them. I'm sure it's not like this. I would bet that it probably is exactly this. Someone coached them on like how to avoid defamation lawsuits.
Sure.
And they were like,
sure,
yeah, like after like the, Macron's wife is a man comment, right? And they're like, you got to say allegedly like every 6 words.
Right.
You got to say like, I don't know, like, like there's like some ratio where they're like every three sentences, you got to stop and be like, and do I know this is true? No. But I'm a curious guy, like it just.
Yeah. I mean, and Tucker is like the master of doing this. And that's why I don't know if you saw, it was like that funny interview where they're like, oh, you said that Donald Trump was satanic. And he's like, I never said that. And then they cut to the clip of him literally saying that. And it was like, I'm just asking questions. Like, is he satanic?
I'm just who could say? I'm just asking the question. Yeah. No, it's I think you and he had some falling out at some point. But Rob Knorr, by the way, sends his best and would like to reconnect with you guys. But Rob has this clip on his channel, which is just him going, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. And then it cuts to Alec Jones going, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. And he just, whenever he gets people in chat who just won't stop Jews-burging,
right.
he's like, okay, I'm going to play the clip. And then he's like, okay, can we talk about something else now?
Yes.
Right? It's like, that's how, there's a certain fan base on the internet that just like, if you don't bring up Israel or you don't just ask questions about Charlie Kirk's murder, like whatever the issue du jour is, they just like, they can't leave it alone. Right. No. So I think that's, I mean, certainly there's a captive audience there and I guess they spend money. So
they're schizophrenic. Candace and Tucker, they've got the schizophrenic audience down on lock. Ukle for 43 months. Thanks so much. Says, check out Natural Law with Ryan Mullally. Stat.
Well, you should read Afro Fry Cooks.
No, I'm going to get to there.
Oh, okay.
Afro Fry Cook, thanks so much for $20. Says, I think Dev is mostly mad because his friends on the right turned in him. I think it's turned on him. Yeah. Especially during the infamous Dungeons and Dragons stream. He may disagree with the left, but he never hated them to this degree. And to be honest, I kind of sympathize. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, look, people ride the wave a little bit, right? Like certainly I'm not going to lie. I've been influenced, but the more I spend time in politics, it changes my opinion of things. So, I mean, I get that Dev could feel betrayed by people on the right who maybe agreed with him because of his takes on games or something like this. But yeah, just to be candid, the point of view he was expressing during our conversation, it's the only conversation I've had with him, so it's the only way I know him, right. Was not like a left-right distinction. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've had tons of debates and conversations with people to the left of me and to the right of me where we have kind of a sane and balanced perspective and we disagree on issues. That wasn't one of those conversations.
Right.
So like, I mean, at a certain point you're like, oh man, my friends were mean to me in a D&D game. So now I think everybody on the right should be unalived by political assassins. Shucks. Like, I don't know. That it might explain it, but it doesn't justify it.
Fat Brown Buffalo for another $20. Thanks so much. Says Anna did say all that though on her recent podcast. I'm very skeptical, but she also said Israel trained dogs to do certain things to Palestinian hostages. I did see that clip. And unfortunately, Anna is still promoting the fake claim that Israel trained dogs to grape certain Palestinian prisoners, which is obviously not true.
She's just asking questions. Don't worry about it.
Of course. Sketch for $10 says, so he had an original question and then there's an update to it. He said, question for Ryan, why is it okay to retweet posts doxing people after the debates update? Since I didn't know Ryan deleted the post after the fact, why did he think that was okay to do in the first place?
I mean, I didn't know I don't know Dev. Like, I didn't know that was even his real name. It was a kind of a silly seeming name. It was somebody who covered the debate. I retweeted it without spending a lot of time thinking about it. Dev asked me to take it down, so I took it down. I don't know. Like, it seems like people are drama farming a bit more than it's worth, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was a mistake, and he rectified the mistake. So,
yeah, I mean, the truth is, I don't spend a huge amount of time like researching my retweets and likes. Maybe I should. Is somebody covered the debate?
Well, there you go, guys.
You kind of implied earlier that like left-wing values are not really genuine, and I'm curious if there's any left-wing values that you believe are actually genuine that the left holds.
I think they're genuine. I just don't think that they're American or classically liberal in any way, shape, or form.
Well, you kind of made it sound like they're using them kind of as a fashion statement instead of actually believing them, which I think they really do believe them of, which is like some of the beliefs are totally unfortunate that they believe them, but.
Well, I think that it's a funny thing to believe, right? Because if you're doing like the philosophy bro analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
They believe that they are entitled to determine what is good based on their preferences and that there is no objective value system. That's what they believe. So then what is good or bad is going to change with their preferences over time. And
well, I see what you mean by the philosophy bro thing.
Yeah. Well, no, because like when I say that like there are
I was just thinking
American value, that I'm talking about like an unchanging God-given value system, and what they're talking about is a ephemeral set of preferences, which is why
regardless of whether
it never means anything. It shifts like the wind.
Regardless of whether these are preferences or not. I mean, I agree with you that they are personal preferences, but they seem like the left generally has a huge anti-capitalist streak.
Sure.
Which runs into the problem, I believe, property rights are the foundation of Western civilization.
They are.
So if you run into a problem where people have this disagreement with that founding principle, you're going to run into a lot of political problems. Like even all of the problems with the nonprofits, right? They're looking into Gavin Newsom's wife on all these nonprofits. It makes sense to me why the left gravitates towards nonprofits. Like nonprofits are just some sort of entity, but they have this idea that profit is theft, right? It seems to me that that's a genuine belief that they hold. It's a terrible belief.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're wrong. I wish we could argue them out of it, but it does seem like it's genuine.
Well, I guess it depends who you're talking about. Like if you're talking about like some kind of like tanky leftist, it might be genuine. At least they're obviously they're terrible beliefs, but at least they hold them openly. When you get into the people who self-describe as liberals, is I think where it gets a little bit dicier, because they are liberal in the sense of left-right distinction, but they're not liberal in terms of actually wanting to defend these kind of like classically American values.
I just think of liberalism as individual rights, which liberalism is individual rights and collectivism is the opposite of liberalism.
Okay.
So
but
socialism is obviously collectivism and it's illiberal. So,
but you gave a great example in your conversation with Dev. Completely unchecked immigration.
Yes.
Is very, very bad for the individual rights and liberties of the people living in the country.
Yeah, it's a form of tyranny. He objected to that framing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
Crime is the same way.
Yeah.
Crime is a form of tyranny.
It certainly can be, but these are things that self-described liberals feel like they ought do in the name of liberalism.
Well,
right? So there's a tension there. There's some dots that aren't connecting, is I guess what I would say.
Right, yeah. Helping the downtrodden is the value that's in question. But obviously, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. A lot of times, values come into conflict. So
well, and that's the actual value. You just put your finger on the pulse perfectly. The actual value is reflexive siding with the downtrodden, right? Because that's different than individual rights in classic liberalism. Because in a classic liberal system or in any functioning meritocracy, if you're treated equally and you are not particularly motivated or skilled or useful, things are going to go pretty badly for you. Like you're going to have some very bad outcomes in a meritocracy. So, I do think that's actually what replaced true liberalism on the left, is this reflexive need to root for the little guy, as opposed to allowing the consequences of ineptitude or failure to occur.
Yeah. Well, they have a completely different worldview where they think it's not the fault of the individual, but it's really society's fault. Society has somehow driven the individual to this extreme that's got them in trouble. So oftentimes they want to shift the burden of responsibility from the criminal or the lazy to capitalism or law enforcement. They want to judge a system that they're against, which is unfortunate too.
Yeah, have you guys looked at Thomas Sowell's A Conflict of Visions?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've read most of his books.
Oh my God, one of my favorite books. He has a lot of good books, but that one's like my perfect, and also less partisan than his other works. But yeah, his idea of the vision of the unconstrained
Anointed.
versus the constrained vision. Yeah, the vision of the anointed, which is that all the problems in society could go away if only the people with the good ideas and the pure hearts were given the power to enact the good policies that would make things better.
Yeah. They deny human nature.
They deny human nature, but also that is overtly tyrannical.
Yeah.
It's overtly tyrannical in its nature, because you're saying that there are better people who should be in charge of everybody and should decide for everybody.
Yeah.
I had to make a correction here. I apologize to Fat Brown Buffalo because he wasn't actually joking.
Oh, really?
Anna Kasparian was on the Wise Nuts podcast. I found clips on X where she said that she said, quote, "I don't believe the bullshit about Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson was framed. I think Michael Jackson was punished for daring to speak out on behalf of the Palestinian people."
Really?
That's a real clip. I have it.
That pains me, because I made such a good joke about it, and then it turns out to be true.
I know,
like,
that's insane. I mean, listen, I was pretty young when Michael Jackson, died and all that stuff. I don't really remember. I could be mistaken. I don't remember Michael Jackson being some sort of like global advocate for the Palestinian people that people were even focused on whatsoever, especially during the whole, sexual allegation. So this is completely insane. Obviously, it's unfortunate that has such strong Israel derangement syndrome, I guess, that she thinks.
Well, it makes sense that he'd be upset about all those kids they're killing, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It makes sense, yeah. And then she also said that she thought Monica Lewinsky was a honeypot used by Benjamin Netanyahu to blackmail Bill Clinton. So, it's,
First of all, Mossad has way hotter honeypots. So let's, but this is so funny to me, because it's like, it's one thing to like view the world through your philosophy or your religion or some kind of like overarching system. But when people pick like one political issue of the day and then they view all human history through it, it's like, man, that Genghis Khan guy, he sure did grape and murder a lot. I wonder how Israel made him do it. Like what the fuck are we talking about?
I'm starting to wonder what bad things have happened in our history that was not actually Israel's fault. I guess it's a very short list at this point. So,
well, it's also like, I guess they can't. It's a weird thing where they're like, they seem to believe that Israel was in charge of every president ever.
Yes.
Right. But then it's like they have like strong opinions about left v right. They're like, well, you can't vote left or you can't vote right or whatever. It's like, well, you just said they're all puppets of Israel. What do you care?
Well, also, like, you even had a lot of the criticism towards Trump, is that he's been so pro-Israel. I don't know, maybe they'll change depending on how this all plays out, but he's been so pro-Israel. And I think John Kerry was saying this. A lot of people kind of repeated this, that Netanyahu had been trying to pressure American presidents to go to war with Iran for years. And Trump was the first person to do it. And it's like, if Israel really is the puppet master behind America, why did it take to Trump to get to this point? Why isn't America gotten to some war with Iran, decades ago?
Yeah, it's Schrodinger's Jew. No matter how you look in the box,
Right.
it's James Lindsay has that incredible meme. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't think I can share a screen on this setup, but you seen the one where it's the connect the dot of an alligator.
Yeah, and it's like a Jewish star.
Yeah, they
it's
just
like
draw a star Jewish in the sky, point
Yeah,
like
right.
see, yeah,
exactly.
It's exactly that every time.
Sketch for $5 says, this was when I asked about the docs. He says, I accept the explanation and Zero Fucks helped me get up to date on it. Thank you. So there you go.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, look, I mean, like, obviously me and Dev are not buddies. We've had one interaction, which was like deeply unpleasant, but I'm not like trying to dox someone. I also, obviously, like, I use my name on the internet. So, my sense about like someone's name being public is like maybe not as something that I'm as sensitive to, and I wasn't looking out for it, but it was certainly not intentional.
The Oceanist for $5 says, Ryan, on a scale from 1 to 10, where would you put Trump or MAGA on enforcing natural law based on classical liberal principles?
Pretty good, actually. Like the thing that people, there's a lot of stuff about Trump that I have disagreed with about like free speech and some various other policies, but by and large, his policies have been aimed at restoring equality and rolling back things like equity, which have become perversions of the idea of equality and have become putting the government's thumb on the scale in favor of certain identity groups over others. Now, there's other stuff he's done that I thought was not great from a individual liberties perspective, particularly around immigration. But you also have to remember that the way that individual rights, especially constitutional rights, apply in the immigration context is not the same as they do for citizens. So there's certainly been some things there that I would probably agree have went too far, but also are a little bit different because it's not citizens' rights. So, and then I guess there's like the Jimmy Kimmel examples, and there's tons of examples that are probably ones that I would agree are problematic. But on the flip side, he's fixed a lot of, or has attempted to fix a lot of long-standing problems from kind of an equality perspective.
Mm-hmm. Now, am I misremembering? Did you say that you didn't vote for him and you wouldn't because of the elector scheme?
Yeah, I didn't. I preferred him to Harris, but I thought that it wasn't the riot, but it was it's specifically the idea that the vice president could control the election.
Right.
That just seems overtly tyrannical to me.
So weighing out the negatives and positives. Okay, what's the number that you're going to give here?
What was the exact question? Sorry.
Well, it was 1 through 10. Where would you put
1 through 10? But what's the question?
Oh, where would you put Trump or MAGA on enforcing natural law based on classical liberal principles?
Oh, like probably like a 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to as opposed to like the -2 to 2 that we've been averaging.
Okay.
I think it's an improvement, but I think
right. The way you're talking, I thought you're going to be like 8, but no. Okay, 5, 6.
No. I think he's doing better, but I think we've been doing very, very badly for 100 years or so.
Gotcha.
On that front.
Okay. The Righteous Indifference for $2 says, get Dev on and reconciliation stream. Listen, Dev wants to come on and Ryan wants to, talk to him and they want to, hug it out and sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, we'll play some woke D&D together. It'll be awesome.
There you go. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play D&D, and in order to make money, chat can torture us by suggesting woke ideas with $20 donos that we then have to live with.
Right. Do you play D&D?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I play in the theoretical sense of that, like, I really enjoy it and would love to, but never do because I have a law practice and a YouTube channel and 2 kids.
Okay.
So yeah, theoretically, would be very down to play, but in reality, never, ever.
Maybe, listen, we played D&D with JMac was D&D. We played with Dev and Rags, so maybe we'll get you in. Okay, whenever we do it next, we'll ask you. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get the gaming table set up. It'll be awesome.
Ronaldo Ramirez for $5 says, Dev put his own name on the Wiki YouTube page as shown by Ace. Now he's crying that people point at it. Well, I'll ask him about that. I don't know if that's correct. Because I would assume if that's the case, I don't know why you'd care. But
I don't know if that's true. I did check after the docs thing happened, where I was like, oh, his name is on this wiki page. In fairness, I had no idea the wiki page existed at the time of the retweet, so this is all after the fact. But
right. Yeah. Raymond Sandamuthri for $10. Thanks so much. Says Trump pardoned January 6 rioters Lawrence Duran, Joseph Schwartz, Trevor Wilson, and others who defrauded people of billions because they donated to him. Can we call this an act of a demonic person?
Of a demonic person? I don't know what I call it, the act of a demonic person. I don't know almost anything about the names that you mentioned. I know that for the January 6 people, his general justification has been like the over prosecution of J6ers in general. But it does seem like some of the people that he pardoned like immediately got arrested for other crimes. So some of those were probably not great pardons. So I'm sure some of those were unwise. I don't know that we would call that demonic. Like what's demonic about it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd go evil. I mean, obviously, if these people ripped off a bunch of people and they should be in jail, but he's letting them loose, that's not good.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
We should reserve demonic for people who commit like genocide.
Yeah, and also I would need to know like a bit more about the facts of these individual cases, because it's very easy just to kind of say things.
What is above demonic? I feel like demonic, you're getting to the end of the range of evil you can articulate, right?
I was just thinking about this, right? Where it's like they called Trump Hitler. So like, what are they going to do in the next
Hitler
election?
Is the end. Yeah.
I think it's got to be like Mecha Hitler, like Hitler, but he's got like a cyborg eye now.
We had Mecha Hitler in our comic. Me and Adam fought Mecha Hitler in our comic.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, see, that's worse than Hitler.
There you go. No, I mean, I agree. I think that's a great point, Adam, because like that's the problem with the term demonic. Because I agree that letting those people, I don't know, I think I know one of those people, which was the crypto person. I don't know. I don't remember the story about the Medicare fraud people. But yeah, no, I mean, I think Trump is massively corrupt, especially in that regard.
Corrupt,
and I do think, I think it's fine to say that he's, that's horrible. Like, it's horrible. It's corrupt. You can even call him a piece of shit, whatever you want. But to me, I agree, like saying demonic, like it's hard to, I would actually disagree. I think demonic, I don't think Hitler is more evil than demonic. I think Hitler and demonic are on the same level. I think if you called Hitler demonic, most people would agree with that. So I do think that we should just, when we're talking about the spectrum of things, whether it's good or evil, I think words matter to an extent, and you have to leave things open. And I don't think being corrupt makes you Hitler level.
Yeah, and I think this was a point that came up in the debate also, is that Dev wanted to talk about corruption because he was making corruption analogous to tyranny in his mind somehow, and they're just not the same thing. Like you could have a corrupt president but not be tyrannized, right? And like that's not saying corruption's a good thing, but it's certainly a very different thing. And when the critique is that like there's something on the table that's tyrannical, that's a lot more concerning than corruption. Not to say that corruption's a good thing, but it's I would like to keep my right to self-governance.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Metatron for $5 says Michael Jackson actually performed in Israel in 2005, and he was shown waving an Israeli flag. Well, there you go.
Guilty.
You say that, but that's actually a psyop. You see, what happened is Mossad invited him there to plant the tracker that they later used to take him out when he turned on them and started advocating for the Palestinians. You are very bad at this game. You clearly don't understand how to play the Israel's to blame for everything game.
Yeah.
I expect better from you, Chatter.
When Michael Jackson showed up to Israel in 2005, like when he got to the airport, the IDF actually took him into a back room. They're like, here's the computer with all the fake child porn that we've like put on it. That looks like it's yours. So you're going to go out there, you're going to fucking wave the Israeli flag and keep your fucking mouth shut about the Palestinians, or we're going to flood the internet. Well, I guess pre-internet. We're going to flood the media with this information. And Michael Jackson said, yes, sir. But then the guilt ate away to him for years until finally he snapped and he had to reveal the truth. And so, as you said, Ryan, then they activated the tracker that they implanted in the base of his spine that released the drug that actually OD'd him.
Now, of course, the counterpoint could be that none of this has fuck all to do with Israel, but that's crazy. That's a fucking crazy. That's a batshit take. So I'm glad we got to the bottom of it.
That's true. The Oceans for $5 says, hell yeah, Israel controls America. That's why Trump is trying to put them in a bad position with Iran, and current negotiations tend to each us. Yeah, exactly.
And if it turns out that he puts them in a good position, that's also evidence of them controlling America. So
you can't win. That's the great part about this. Yeah. Jason Mulgreen for $20. Thanks so much. Says there are Marxist Jews and there are capitalist Jews. There are globalist Jews and there are border hawk Jews. Almost like Jews are like every other group of humans and they have varying viewpoints that conflict, and the problem is leftists. Very well said. True.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's so funny too, because like Karl Marx, who was born Jewish, but he himself hated Jews. It's like, thought they sucked.
That's actually one of my favorite facts about like the Marxist left, is that they're like, yeah, we've got to do like race-based Marxism. And they're like, wasn't Marxist like super racist? They're like, irrelevant. Let's ignore that point. We don't want to talk about that. We're going to move on. The guy just dropped a few N-bombs in his personal letters. Seems like a nice guy. God bless Karl Marx.
Yeah. How did Lincoln feel about that? He should have been, wasn't on board with that one. The Oceans for $5 says, recognizing that Trump is bad and a corrupt president without being brain broken by him makes S-class the best class. Checks and balances are OP. Thank you. That's true. Living says, Walton Relay for $2 says, D&D is a good idea. Have JMac DM. Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. That'd be awesome. I'm down.
I'm down. Sounds like good content.
Well,
hey guys,
there you go.
I apologize, but I got to break out because I got family over still.
All right.
Well, that's fine.
Thanks
I was
for coming.
just about to say, get out of here, show you the door. But thank you for coming on, Ryan.
Hey, man,
now we don't
always
have
a
to kick
pleasure. Yeah, I mean, this is the key. I got to leave with you wanting more before you're like, get the fuck out of here so we can do something interesting.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'll try to do something that annoys some corner of the internet so we can talk again.
All right.
Cool.
That's cool.
Well,
Take care, man.
Good seeing you guys.